The Sonic franchise can best be described as a wild roller coaster. With so many different gameplay styles, narrative decisions, leaps in quality, it's a wild time being a fan of this unpredictable series. Since so many people have different ideas on what makes a good Sonic game as a result of 3 decades of the speedy blue hedgehog, you might be wondering what Sega has to do to unify the split fandom and steer the series in the right direction. Well, the answer is simple. Fucking kill him. I had a lot of things in my 2023 bingo card, but suffice to say, the last thing I expected to come out of this year was for Sega to shadow drop an official Sonic game out of nowhere as an April Fool's joke. After years of Sega doing the bare minimum of this IP, I just want to say off the bat that I am so grateful we're living in a time where Sonic isn't a good enough place for us to receive cool stuff like this. The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog is an interactive click-and-point visual novel, being the first official Sonic game since Mania, excluding ports, that was not developed by Sonic Team, and instead was developed by a team of passionate fans that was a part of the social media management and a few others as well. Aside from Doki Doki Literature Club, which served as a horrifying subversion of the genre, I have absolutely no experience with visual novels of any kind, and was admittedly taken back when this was first announced. I honestly didn't know what to make of it. I mean, you won't ever see me turning down a free Sonic game, but what could I honestly expect from a click-and-point April Fool's game? Well, I got my answer, and I mean, it was clearly worth making a video on, and that's because this game fucking rocks. We have a lot to talk about, so let's take a look and find out who murdered Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm sure 90% of you have played this game already and already know, but shut up, I need a cool Sega to review. The general gameplay of the Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog is quite simple. You're a newly hired train employee who's been tasked with watching over Sonic and Friends' murder mystery party and making sure things go well, as well as aiding in the investigation yourself. In order to get to the bottom of things, you have to investigate your surroundings, gather evidence, and interrogate suspects to check for valid alibis. Now, I know that sounds really complex and exciting, but relax, this wasn't developed by Quantic Dream. The evidence is simple to find, the mysteries are easy to put together, and there's no risk of messing anything up since the game has one ending and is pretty linear in design. Which is okay. When I said this game was interactive, I mean that by its most basic definition, since you're physically playing the game, but your choices don't necessarily influence the story and lead to different scenarios. The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog was mainly constructed for a first-time playthrough only, and is meant to be an overall relaxing and lighthearted experience. But that's not to say the gameplay is dull, not in the slightest. It's really fun piecing things together on your first rodeo, and there's a plentiful amount of dialogue options to constantly keep you engaged in what's going on. The only actual bits of traditional Sonic gameplay come in the form of the Dream Gear minigames. During certain interrogations, when things start to get spicy, your character will have to think critically, and we see that in the form of the Dream Gear. Yes, I adore that name. Here, you control Sonic in a 2.5D landscape, and your objective is to fill the ring meter and avoid hazardous obstacles that could detract from your ring count. Kinda like a Sonic 2 special stage, except you can see where the fuck you're going. These minigames play fun enough, and at first, you might view them as a harmless, piss-easy thing like I did originally, but trust me, as you progress through the game, they'll get harder and harder until they provide a genuine challenge, which I definitely was not expecting. What's really cool about the Dream Gear gameplay is that it gets repurposed later on into something cooler, but without delving into spoilers, I'll touch on it later. That pretty much does it for the gameplay, and yeah, it's nothing insane. It's just that it fueled the story and immersed the player in its wild journey, and it does that just fine. But of course, the main appeal of the Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog comes in the form of the writing. So how good are the story and characters? Absolutely wonderful. As stated earlier, you control a self-insert train employee who's in charge of overseeing the party, but shortly after everyone's roles for the event are assigned, the train abruptly speeds up, knocking you, Tails, and Amy unconscious. After waking up and freeing yourself from a pantry closet, you discover that Sonic is the one who has been murdered, and thus the investigation has started. However, this act may be just a little too convincing. Your character pushes their worries aside and joins Detective Tails, and just like that, it's up to you two to get to the bottom of things. Let me get the elephant out of the room. Holy shit, the entire main cast is here! With obvious exceptions to Cream and Charmy, basically every major Sonic character is present and gets plenty of screen time throughout the game. And I love this. I cannot stress enough how integral Sonic's friends are to the overall series. Of course, I love the Blue Devil, but the other characters are a huge reason I'm so attached to the series due to their standout personalities, growth, and golden dynamics. They play a huge part in making these individual stories so special, and the alternative playstyles they brought to gameplay variation is something I've missed within the main series. Nowadays, most of these characters are just blatantly ignored, and when they do show up, they're often sidelined and not given much to do. So I cannot tell you how great it feels to have a Sonic game released in 2023 that not only features most of Sonic's friends, but has them as the central focus. What makes this even more special is the fact that we're not following these guys on some high-stakes epic adventure. No, this is a casual birthday event, and because of it, we get to see how these characters are in their downtime and how they interact with one another, which is just so beautiful to see. I know that may be a strong word, but I can't overstate it enough, guys. I love these characters. And this silly April Fool's game meant a lot to me as a fan. What elevates all of this is just how good the writing is. The characterization is on point, and guys, this game can be pretty damn funny. Jokes like Espio's constant shitty poems, Amy's white girl energy, Shadow's casual habit of eating coffee beans referencing Twitter takeover, and many more make this a pretty charming time. One standout is the fact that Omochao is now canonically a wanted criminal due to medical malpractice. That's so random and stupid, and I love it. There's also a Far Cry 3 reference for crying out loud. My favorite comedic aspect about this game is how your self-insert character is an everyday relatable vessel for the player, and in their eyes, Sonic and his friends are a bunch of insane freaks. Never really thought about it, but to an outsider, yeah, these guys are a bunch of weirdos. Also, fun fact, but this self-insert character is technically one of the first canonical non-binary characters in a Sonic game, which is pretty cool. I say one of because it's actually revealed Omochao is non-binary since Tails refers to them by they/them pronouns, and yeah, no, that's pretty awesome. Regardless of who you are or where you stand, representation of various marginalized groups is a very crucial part of our modern-day culture, and it makes me happy to see the Sonic series unafraid to venture to this territory. Alas, I think it's time we delve into how these characters are portrayed since I want a chance to highlight each of these adorable goofballs. Sonic is exactly how he should be, even with his little screen time. He's cool, uplifting, inspiring, and is just a chill kind of guy. Tails is too fucking adorable in this game. I love him. He's optimistic, sweet, perceptive, he's just the best. The only odd thing is how this contradicts the Tails we see in Frontiers just a little bit. In that game, Tails decided that he was done always tagging behind Sonic and instead he'll become his own man and go off on his own. Well, here, there's multiple times where Tails will stop and ask what would Sonic do, and he's still the same as ever, if not as much assertiveness as you'd think he'd have after the last game. Very minor, I know, but I thought I'd just bring it up. Aside from that, I love the way Tails is characterized here. This is easily the best Amy has been since probably 0-6. She's amazing here. She's always upbeat, very assertive, a huge extrovert, extremely sassy, and just radiates positivity as Amy Rose should. I've seen some people say they prefer this side to Amy than they do the mature, dialed back version we see in Frontiers, and yeah, I agree. Don't get me wrong, I liked Amy in Frontiers, and I don't think she was mischaracterized in the slightest. But Amy, ever since her early days, has always been the one to put a smile on people's faces when they need it the most. Her never-ending optimism and warmth was a key attribute that made her character special. She alone redeemed two separate characters who most would consider too far gone. Amy, much like her crush, is inspiring. So I think her more upbeat and happy personality suits her more than the more laid-back and calm Amy in Frontiers. Knuckles is exactly how I want him. He's a cool, very much introverted hothead who has a tough exterior but has a soft side. Vector is the party animal we all know and love, and Espio is simply wonderful. Like usual, he's a calm, rational ninja, but this game takes the time to highlight his goofy side, which I love. Like how he takes his role as poet far too seriously and will just keep giving us god-awful poems. Locomotive in motion. I think I lost my lotion. The window shows the ocean. Oh wait, there's my lotion. Honestly, bars. Rouge is here, and she's the devious troublemaker we all know and love, and there's also Blaze, who's a responsible princess like always. However, this time around, it seems that she has a little bit of a wild side, which is great. And there's Shadow, who like all of his other recent iterations, is just a soulless Vegeta Wait, no. 17 years. You mean to tell me it's been almost 17 years since Shadow had a decent portrayal and it took an April Fool's joke to get his character right? Shadow in this game is the best. I love him. Finally, whoever writing this game realized that Shadow isn't just an arrogant, edgeless Sonic and actually understood the character. Shadow isn't a fucking dick, he's not Vegeta. He's a reserved, no-nonsense hero with a dark past but a good heart. He's a good person. The bastardization of Tails in the 2010s was awful, but at the very least, it was an issue the fandom unanimously agreed on and hated. Unfortunately, in Shadow's case, I've seen a good portion of the fandom defend edgy Shadow, not because they like the character we see in Adventure 206, but just because they like the idea of Sonic having a dark rival. They want someone to be Sonic's Venom, and from a design standpoint, that's what Shadow is. And he originally was that. but he's grown it into so much more since his debut and he shouldn't be restrained to just be a trope. It's almost like how fans don't like it when Knuckles continuously gets tricked by Eggman to fighting Sonic since that erases all of the meaning behind his character journey in 3 and Knuckles. That's the same thing as wanting Shadow to constantly fight Sonic despite redeeming himself and turning into a hero at the end of Adventure 2. God damn it, that's just going another Shadow rant. Sorry guys, favorite Sonic character, it happens. Anyways, Shadow in this game is fun and he cares considerably for his friends, even if it may not seem like it all the time, which is appropriate for the ultimate life form. That about does it for each of these characters, and man, the writing team understood the assignment. This writing is some of the strongest in the entire series, and I love it. With everything major covered, I want to talk about the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog's endgame and how cool it is, so here's a spoiler warning. I highly recommend you go play the game for yourself because it's such a lovely experience and the ending is absolutely perfect. The game is free on Steam and shouldn't be particularly demanding to run, so go try it out yourself. Now, at the conductor's compartment, you and Tails have worked out who did it and Amy calls everyone to the front. Everyone arrives, except for Sonic. Annoyed, Amy and Vector go to get him, but the mood quickly changes when they return with Sonic's body, which is completely unresponsive. Now things have gotten serious and someone has took this too far. You have to finally decide on a killer, and that killer is none other than Esbio. We get a long, satisfying process in which Tails uses evidence and past mysteries from the entire game to expose Esbio for his crimes, and all accumulates when the cornered chameleon has nowhere else to run and no excuses to fall back on. I love this epic and overdramatic shot of Tails and your character pointing at Esbio, and the next one of him with the dramatic spotlight and pellets falling beside him. I love this game. Before anything else can escalate, Sonic comes too, and can finally give us the full story. Yes, Esbio was the one who drugged Sonic by using a blow dart, but that's not all. Moments before that ever occurred, Sonic the conductor checked out the train's power supply and discovered that the entire train is being powered by a flicky. Yep, it's one giant elaborate badnik. I love how after all of this, Esbio is like, guys, I have a confession to make. I murdered Sonic the Hedgehog. That's amazing. To further solidify the fact that Sonic is telling the truth, Esbio got instructions to incapacitate Sonic from the train itself. It finally reveals itself and has the conductor captured. It speeds up, knocking everyone back and locking each person in a select compartment. You end up alone in the dining car of Sonic, and shortly after, Eggman broadcasts himself to you, giving everyone the full picture. This Badnik is one of many disguised Badnik trains going around the city, and its motivation is a bounty Eggman has put out for Sonic's capture. It becomes obvious that the train's reward will be to have the ability to keep the retiring conductor by his side forever, since it can't stand to see him go. Eggman leaves, and your character begins doubting themselves, but Sonic quickly notices, and then we get this amazing moment. I can tell the situation is getting to you. I get it, the road's getting tough, it's easy to question the decisions that got you here. But when negative thoughts hit you, let it pass and keep living. I need you here to help me think through this before I do something rash. You see, I'm one of those leap before you think kind of guys. I've heard from many that this scene emotionally impacted them, and it's no wonder why. Because Sonic isn't just talking to some nameless character. No, when he's telling you to cast your words to the side and keep living, he's referring to you, the player. This moment seems so small, but it just demonstrates what makes Sonic as a character so inspiring to not just kids, but adults. His general freedom, his bright outlook on life. Everyone wishes they could live the way Sonic could. No worries, no fear, no self-doubt, but that's the thing. We all can. If we try hard enough, we can strive to live the way Sonic lives, to be as free and cool as he is. That's what this scene demonstrates so well, and it's easily one of the biggest highlights of the game. After this, Sonic references Frontiers and explains that if he collects enough rings, he can do a power boost to destroy the walls to each compartment. This confirms that Sonic has kept all of the powers the end has granted him, meaning we'll likely see another moveset similar to Frontiers in future games, which has me really excited. If nothing else, please just keep the side loop and power boost. You remember when I said the Dream Gear gets repurposed into something cool later? Yeah, well this final section of the game is what I meant, since now the player has control over the real Sonic as he speeds through the train in order to break out all of his friends. This section, like I mentioned previously, can be a decent challenge, which is pretty cool. Afterward, everyone is free and it's time for the final showdown. In this final boss against the train, the goal is the same, but the obstacles are more plentiful and harder to avoid. In other words, this final boss can actually kick your ass. Esbio rescues the trapped Flicky, Sonic damages the train, and Amy lands the final blow. I love that. Before everyone including the conductor leaves, the train apologizes to the conductor before permanently shutting off, and the conductor bids his longtime friend a farewell. A shockingly sad scene given the silly circumstances of the story. The conductor is reunited with his wife, and since the group are right outside of a bakery, Sonic gets Amy her cake and the group celebrate their friend, ending the game. Except for this last shot of Eggman where Sage and Metal Sonic are wearing these adorable Go Dad shirts, and yes, Sage gets a cameo. I guess it's safe to say she fully survived Frontiers, no amnesia or dark trick attached, which makes me happy. Also, I love how Metal Sonic is basically Eggman's son now. Some prefer the Metal Sonic who resents his creator and went about things his own way, but canonically, any rebellion Metal could exhibit has been programmed out, and with no one else to take the character, making him somewhat of a son to Eggman is an adorable and cool move. Oh, and my character flew into space. That was the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, and as you can tell, I loved every second of this game. It's extremely fun to get the chance to interact and conversate with the Sonic cast. The writing was excellent, the characterization is on point. I didn't even mention this, but the art is excellent. This was just such a fun surprise. To those who play Sonic games mainly for the gameplay and don't really care too much about the story and characters, I can see how this wouldn't really be anything noteworthy. But as someone who loves Sonic stories and basically adores each of its wonderful characters, I needed something like this. I'm still processing the fact that this is even a real game because of how much this came out of nowhere. Since this is now the highest rated Sonic game of all time, I would love it if Sega were to do more of these. They don't even have to be visual novels, but just more experimental stuff like this which gives us more time to spend with these characters would be wonderful. Everyone who worked on this project should be proud of themselves for making the best April Fool's joke of all time. Anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, then please like, subscribe, and as always, I will see you guys next time. Peace out.